In the year 22, the Galactic Scientific Consortium convened on Zirion 4, a crystalline world of floating research spires, celebrating its latest xenobiology report. News channels across the Milky Way broadcast the findings with unwavering certainty. Human physiology poses no threat, humans classified as harmless by Zirion Council. The announcement sparked little surprise among the assembled delegates. Humans had long been considered primitive by galactic standards, interesting specimens. Certainly, but hardly remarkable in the vast tapestry of sentient life. The classification merely formalized what many species had assumed for decades. Moments later, every communicator throughout the assembly lit up with an urgent distress call that cut through the self-congratulatory atmosphere like a plasma torch through vacuum. "We're facing extinction. Earth, please respond." The shatteringly abrupt reversal sent shockwaves through Earth's United Nations Space Agency. Emergency protocols activated across every branch, and within hours, the highest-ranking officials gathered in the orbital headquarters above a gleaming blue Earth. "We need someone who understands both worlds." Director Okafor announced to the Crisis Committee. Her gaze swept across the room before settling on a woman seated quietly at the far end of the table. Someone who can think like them but fight like us. Dr. Mara was a rising xenobiologist at UN Space Research HQ, and now found herself tapped to lead Earth's first interstellar rescue mission. Outwardly calm and analytical, she displayed little reaction to her sudden appointment, merely nodding once in acceptance. But beneath her composed exterior burned a fierce determination, rooted in her childhood on a hard-scrabble lunar colony, hinting at the resilience she would soon unleash. "I'll need complete autonomy," she said, her voice steady, "and access to the restricted archives." Director Okafor hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Whatever you need, just save them, and us." The Zirians prized logic above all else. Their entire civilization had evolved around the pursuit of pure knowledge. Their scientists manipulating life forms across dozens of systems to study universal constants. Emotions were considered primitive evolutionary remnants, useful perhaps for lesser species, but unnecessary for beings who had transcended such limitations eons ago. They regarded humans as particularly primitive carbon-based organisms, incapable of the complex bioengineering that formed the cornerstone of Zirian advancement. Human medical science, with its reliance on chemical compounds and crude surgical interventions, was viewed as quaint at best, a charming reminder of the Zirians' own distant evolutionary past. Relying on telepathic field scans that measured brainwave patterns across species, Zirians had measured human mental noise as negligible compared to their own crystalline thought structures. The results had been so unimpressive that many researchers had simply dismissed humans as barely worth studying further. Their official memos, shared across the consortium's knowledge banks, occasionally laughed at Earth's trial-and-error medicine and simple blood chemistry. They still allow random genetic recombination during reproduction. One noted researcher had commented with the Zirian equivalent of a snicker. How inefficient. Mara understood the Zirians better than most. She had grown up scavenging Martian biotech ruins, learning to jury-rig cures from scraps of alien technology abandoned during the first wave of galactic exploration. While her peers pursued traditional academic paths, Mara had developed an uncanny ability to understand the intersection between human biology and alien technology. She had secretly studied rogue survival tactics, blending empathy with improvisation, making her the perfect, if unconventional, choice for a crisis no one had predicted. Her unorthodox methods had raised eyebrows throughout her career, but her results had been undeniable. Now, those same qualities might be humanity's only hope. They wouldn't have called for help if they had any other option. Mara explained to her hastily assembled team as their ship accelerated toward the galactic core. The Zirians consider asking for assistance to be an admission of fundamental failure. Whatever they're facing must be catastrophic. The screens surrounding them displayed everything Earth knew about Zirian physiology: crystalline beings whose bodies resembled humanoid formations of translucent, faceted minerals. They communicated through resonance frequencies that rippled through their forms, and their biological processes relied on complex energy fields rather than chemical reactions. "We're flying blind," warned Commander Tejada, the military liaison assigned to the mission. "They've never shared detailed information about their vulnerabilities." "That's because they believe they didn't have any," Mara replied, studying the data with intense concentration. "Pride comes before a fall, even for beings made of crystal. A rogue cosmic pathogen, released during a failed Xerian experiment on a living star, had spread through their hive mind network with devastating speed, corrupting every research facility it touched. The Xerians had been attempting to understand the quantum structure of stellar consciousness, tapping into the complex energy patterns at the core of a young star. Something had gone catastrophically wrong. Entire spires fell dark across Xerion 4 as the digital plague overwhelmed their systems. The Xerion Council scrambled its last functioning beacon to Earth in desperation. The message, when finally decoded, contained not just a plea for help, but extensive data dumps about Xerion biology, information they had jealously guarded for centuries. As the pestilence mutated, even Xerion's hyper-advanced nanotech proved helpless against the rapidly evolving threat. Their technology, designed to interface seamlessly with their crystalline biology, became the perfect vector for the pathogen's spread. What had begun as a simple data corruption had somehow crossed the boundary into their physical forms, causing crystal structures to degrade and shatter. For the first time in their recorded history, their master scientists trembled before an organic vulnerability they neither anticipated nor understood. The Xerion Council, in their final communication before communications went dark, admitted the unthinkable. "We require human assistance. Your biological unpredictability may be our salvation." Back on Earth, Mara assembled a motley team that reflected her unconventional approach. Veteran field doctors who had treated alien refugees during the Proxima conflicts, Martian colony engineers who specialized in hostile environment adaptations, and a hacker who had once decoded a black market biotech virus that had swept through the outer colonies. "We need to think outside every box," she told them during their first briefing. "The Xerians don't understand what's happening because they've engineered all unpredictability out of their systems. We need to reintroduce chaos, controlled chaos." In a makeshift orbital lab hastily constructed in the cargo bay of their vessel, they worked around the clock, analyzing the Xerian biological data and comparing it to every known pathogen in human history. The breakthrough came not from the xenobiologists, but from Sujata Karim, a historian specializing in pre-space human pandemics. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a centuries-old record of a human virus that had devastated Earth's population in the 2050s. It mutated by incorporating human DNA into its structure. What if we reverse the process? Mara's eyes widened as she understood. We splice human adaptive immune genes with Xerion bioscaffold proteins, creating a living antiviral nanobot that can evolve faster than the pathogen. "Is that even possible?" Commander Tejada asked. "No," Mara admitted with a grim smile. "Not according to any established science. But then again, the Xerians thought they were invulnerable. And look where that got them. For 72 sleepless hours, the team worked to create something that shouldn't exist. A hybrid biological construct that combined human unpredictability with Xerian structure. When they finally succeeded, the result was something none of them could fully explain. A shimmering, ever-changing substance that seemed to exist partially in another dimension. "Will it work?" asked Dr. Hassan, the chief medical officer. Mara stared at the swirling contents of the containment field. "I have absolutely no idea, but it's the only chance they've got." The Cure delivery mission raced through a meteor storm en route to Xerion 4's quarantined spires, the ship's shields straining against the barrage. As they approached the crystalline planet, they discovered another obstacle. Zirion defense drones, their systems corrupted by the pathogen, misread the human ship as hostile and opened fire. "We can't get through," the pilot shouted as the ship rocked from multiple impacts. Mara made a split-second decision that defied all protocol. "Get us as close as you can to the highest research dome, then drop shields for 3 seconds." "That's suicide," Commander Tejada protested. "No," Mara countered, securing the experimental biocapsules into the emergency deployment system. "It's improvisation." As the ship performed a dangerous dive toward the uppermost crystal spire of the Zirian capital, Mara jettisoned the experimental biocapsules through a momentary gap in their shields. The tiny containers, each no larger than a human fist, scattered across the crystal dome like raindrops on glass before burning through the surface and disappearing inside. "Now we wait," Mara said quietly as their ship retreated to a safe distance. "And hope." Inside the crystal galleries of the Zirian High Council chamber, lead scientist Nar Akra watched in stunned silence as the human capsules dissolved, releasing their shimmering contents into the corrupted atmosphere of the spire. The substance spread with impossible speed, engulfing corrupted crystals and purging the digital pathogen wherever it touched. Something unexpected happened as the cure progressed. The hybrid construct didn't simply eliminate the pathogen, it began to integrate with the Zirian systems, strengthening them in ways their creators had never imagined. Tears welled up in Nar Akra's phosphorescent eyes as she observed the phenomenon, the first emotional response a Zirian had displayed in millennia. The hive mind network flickered back online, node by node, this time infused with human-derived resilience, silencing the plague forever and creating something entirely new. A system that combined Zirion precision with human adaptability. Grateful but humbled, the Zirian Council suspended all classification protocols. They publicly rescinded the Harmless decree and hailed humanity as lifesavers. What had begun as a desperate last resort had transformed into a new beginning for both species. In a grand ceremony that streamed across the galaxy, Mara was offered Zirion's highest honor and a seat on the consortium's council, the first human ever to receive such recognition. "We do not understand how you accomplished what our greatest minds could not," Nar Akra admitted during the ceremony, her crystalline form shimmering with new patterns that reflected her internal changes. "Your methods defied all logical analysis." "That's precisely why they worked," Mara replied. "Sometimes the most powerful solutions come not from perfect logic, but from embracing uncertainty." Zirion's scholars, forever changed by the experience, began to admit that compassion and improvisational grit were as vital as pure logic in the cosmic equation. What they had dismissed as human weakness, the messy, unpredictable nature of organic life and emotion, had proven to be humanity's greatest strength. Humanity's chaotic biology and tenacious spirit became case studies in galactic universities across known space. Species that had previously avoided contact with Earth now sought human delegates, eager to understand the beings who had saved the mighty Zirians. As Mara prepared to return to Earth aboard a ship now upgraded with Zirian technology freely given in gratitude, she received a private message from Nar Akra that appeared on her personal communicator. "We have discovered something else, far beyond our plague. A pattern in the cosmic background radiation that should not exist. The living star we attempted to study was merely a symptom of something greater. Will you help us again?" The message contained coordinates to a region of space beyond the galactic rim, unexplored territory where the laws of physics themselves seemed to unravel. Mara stared at the screen for a long moment before sending her reply. A single word that would launch humanity's next unexpected triumph. Yes, the universe, it seemed, had far more in store for the species once classified as harmless. The journey to Zirion 4 had taken Mara's team 17 days at maximum quantum drive, the fastest human ships could travel. The return trip, however, would be completed in less than 3 days. thanks to Xerian technological upgrades freely shared in the aftermath of the crisis. "We would never have considered this application," explained Chief Engineer Zalvex as he supervised the installation of crystalline matrices throughout the human vessel's propulsion system. "Our drive designs always prioritized perfect efficiency and predictability." "And ours?" Mara asked, watching the shimmering patterns form between human technology and alien crystals. "Yours embrace fluctuation patterns we would have filtered out," the engineer replied with new respect in his resonant voice. "By allowing controlled instability, you achieve energy states we never explored." This exchange symbolized the fundamental shift occurring throughout Xerian society. For millennia, they had pursued perfection through elimination of variables. Now, they were learning to see strength in adaptation rather than elimination. Back on Earth, the implications of the Xerian incident rippled through human institutions. The United Nations Space Agency underwent a complete reorganization, establishing a new division dedicated to integrating the wealth of knowledge now flowing freely from Xerian databases. "They're sharing everything," Director Okafor told Mara during her debriefing. "Medical technologies, propulsion theories, cosmic mapping data, information that would have taken us centuries to discover on our own." "They're not just sharing it," Mara corrected. "They're asking us to improve it. They've recognized that our perspective has value precisely because it's different from theirs." The collaboration quickly bore fruit beyond anyone's expectations. Human medical researchers, working with Xerian crystalline computing systems, developed treatments for conditions that had plagued humanity for generations. Xerion architects, inspired by human environmental adaptations, created new types of habitats that responded intuitively to their inhabitants' needs. But beneath the public celebration of this new partnership, Mara remained troubled by Nar Akra's final message. The coordinates pointed to a region known in human navigational charts as the Botes Void, an enormous, nearly empty region of space that had long puzzled astronomers. "What were they doing with that star?" she asked during a private communication with Nar Akra, established through the new quantum entanglement network that linked Earth and Xerion 4. The crystalline being's form shimmered with what Mara now recognized as hesitation. "We believed we were studying stellar consciousness, the awareness that develops in stars over billions of years. But we discovered something far more disturbing. The data Nar Akra shared defied conventional understanding. The star they had attempted to study wasn't merely conscious, it was communicating. Analysis of its energy patterns revealed structured information exchange with something located in the void beyond the galactic rim. We attempted to interpret the communication," Nar Akra explained. "That was our mistake. Whatever exists in that void recognized our presence and responded, aggressively. The pathogen wasn't random," Mara realized. "It was targeted." "Precisely. An attack designed specifically to neutralize our kind." The Xerian scientists' form pulsed with what might have been fear. "But it had no effect on humans. Your biology is so different, so unpredictable, that it couldn't establish a foothold." The implications were enormous. Somewhere beyond known space existed an intelligence capable of weaponizing cosmic forces against specific biological patterns. The Xerians, with their precisely engineered biological uniformity, had made perfect targets. Humans, with their chaotic genetic diversity, remained immune, at least for now. "The consortium is assembling an expedition," Nar Akra continued. "Not to confront whatever dwells in the void, but to understand it. We need humans to lead this mission. We need you, Mara." Preparations for the expedition proceeded with unprecedented cooperation between species once distant and mistrustful. The vessel designed for the journey incorporated technologies from a dozen worlds, but its core principles were distinctly human: adaptability, redundancy, and the capacity for creative problem-solving in crisis. "We're calling it the Prometheus," Mara told her assembled crew during their first briefing. The team included not only humans and Xerians, but representatives from 3 other consortium species. each bringing unique perspectives and abilities. Fitting, considering we're stealing fire from the gods. Or awakening them, murmured Li Wei, the quantum physicist who had helped analyze the stellar communications. Mara acknowledged the concern with a nod. Whatever we're facing, we go in with open eyes. Humanity survived in isolation for thousands of years because we never stopped questioning, never stopped adapting. Now we bring that same spirit to the stars. As the Prometheus prepared for departure, a ceremony was held in the vast crystal amphitheater that served as the consortium's central meeting place. Representatives from over 200 worlds gathered to witness the historic moment. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history, announced the consortium overseer, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical form. One where we acknowledge that diversity of thought and biology is not merely to be tolerated, but celebrated as our greatest collective strength. Mara, standing alongside Nar Akra and the other expedition leaders, felt the weight of the moment. Humanity had gone from being classified as harmless to being recognized as essential in less than a single Earth year. Whatever waited beyond the galactic rim would face not a single approach but the combined creativity of multiple civilizations. As the ceremony concluded and the crew prepared to board, Dr. Hassan approached Mara with uncharacteristic hesitation. "I've been analyzing the combined human-Zirian construct we created," he said quietly. "The cure, or whatever we should call it. Its behavior in Zirian systems suggests something we hadn't anticipated." "Another problem?" Mara asked. "No," Hassan's expression conveyed both wonder and concern. "Quite the opposite. The construct isn't just adapting to threats, it's anticipating them. It's developing something akin to intuition." The implications hit Mara with sudden clarity. "We didn't just create a cure. We created a new form of intelligence. One that exists at the intersection of human unpredictability and Zirian precision," Hassan confirmed, "and it's evolving faster than either of our species could separately." Before Mara could process this revelation, her communicator signaled an urgent message from Earth. Director Okafor's face appeared, her expression grim. "We're detecting energy patterns consistent with the Zirian pathogen in multiple systems across the Orion Arm," she reported without preamble. "Whatever you stirred up out there is expanding its reach. We need to move up our timeline." Mara decided immediately. "Inform the consortium. We launch in 12 hours. As the Prometheus broke orbit from the consortium hub world, carrying representatives of civilizations that had barely acknowledged each other's existence a few months prior. Mara stood on the observation deck watching the stars streak past. Nar Akra joined her, the Zirian's crystalline form reflecting the cosmic light in mesmerizing patterns. "When my people first encountered humans, we saw only what you lacked, our level of technological advancement, our unified purpose, our freedom from emotional constraints." "And now?" Mara asked. "Now we understand that what we perceived as weaknesses were actually strengths we had engineered out of ourselves." The alien's form rippled with what Mara now recognized as profound respect. "You retain the chaos from which all new patterns emerge." As the ship accelerated toward the edge of known space and whatever waited beyond, Mara considered the journey that had brought them to this point. From being dismissed as harmless curiosities to becoming the galaxy's best hope against an incomprehensible threat, humanity had come full circle. "We don't know what we're going to find out there," she said, both to Nar Akra and to herself. "But whatever it is, it will encounter something it never expected." "What is that?" the Zirian asked. Mara smiled as the stars blurred into streaks of light around them. The combined strength of beings who have learned to turn their differences into their greatest weapon. If this entity thinks it can divide and conquer us, it's about to learn a very human lesson, which is, never underestimate the harmless ones. They're usually just waiting for the right moment to show their teeth. The Prometheus vanished into the darkness between galaxies. carrying with it the greatest diversity of life and thought ever assembled in a single vessel, proof that in the face of cosmic threats, unity forged through difference might be the most powerful force of all. And somewhere in the vast emptiness of the Boöta's void, something ancient and patient became aware of their approach. The game it had played across eons with countless civilizations was entering a new phase, one where the rules it had established might no longer apply. The final confrontation would not be decided by technology alone, nor by biological superiority, but by something far more fundamental: the capacity to evolve, to adapt, and to embrace the very chaos from which consciousness itself had first emerged. Humanity's classification had changed forever, from harmless to essential, and perhaps, soon enough, to formidable. The stars watched in silence as the journey continued, cosmic witnesses to the unlikeliest of alliances and the unexpected triumph that had made it possible. Whatever came next would reshape the galaxy's understanding of intelligence itself, and it had all begun with a simple distress call to a species once deemed too insignificant to matter. "We're facing extinction. Earth, please respond." Words that had changed everything, opening the door to a future no one could have predicted, least of all the beings who had once laughed at human trial and error, medicine, and simple blood chemistry. Sometimes, it seemed, the universe had a sense of irony after all.